Welcome to the Partnernomics Show, where industry thought leaders discuss the hottest topics in partnerships, ecosystems, and innovation. The Partnernomics Show is brought to you by IOLITE Solutions, a product incubator specific to Salesforce. Now here's the host of the Partnernomics Show, Mark Brigman.
Welcome back to another episode of the Partnernomics Show. Definitely looking forward to getting back and sending these episodes to you on a regular basis again. Today we are joined by my friend Brian Hattaway. Brian, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Well, for better or worse for you, man, I'm going to have you on quite a bit if I have things my way. I'm really looking forward to sharing like our journey. And to give people a little bit of context, Brian and I have known each other, I don't know, we've been trying to figure this out, at least 12, 13, 14 years. And Brian, you have a chance to share in a minute kind of about your background. But Brian and I been friends for a long time. But within our business, within Partnernomics, we, from day one, going back over 7 years ago, wanted to put software into our business. And so Brian and I have teamed up literally as technology partners to bring our Partnernomics IQ system to life. So I think one of the things that's going to be like an interesting little twist to the Partnernomics Show and the various guests that we have on is I want to have Brian on a regular basis so we can continue to kind of unpack what it looks like to be in the middle of a technology partnership. And we can kind of show all of those different components that we go through, the trials, tribulations, the marketing, the sales, the technology piece, all of those sorts of things. So it's going to be really fun to share that with the viewers. But Brian, this is your first time that I've been able to rope you and get you onto the Partnernomics Show. So I'm going to ask you to spend a couple minutes and share with our viewers a little bit about your background.
Cool. Well, like you said, Mark, we've known each other for a long time. And so, we've all been kind of tracking each other's various careers as we've gone through. And for my side, I've been lucky enough to found a company that does Salesforce consulting and Salesforce product development. And so, it's kind of natural, as Mark was saying, being able to bring the notion of the Partnernomics methodology and being able to bring that to life in software. And so being able to leverage our expertise of being almost 20 years as a Salesforce, part of the Salesforce ecosystem, and dealing with, consulting as well as product development in that space. And that's really been a lot of fun. So, it's our role of what we've created as our company called IOLITE Solutions. And that is the company that we use to bring products in the Salesforce ecosystem to life. And so that's kind of that's what we've been able to set up. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. And I think there's some interesting things that I think I'll be able to bring to this because, as Mark has been a partnering professional for many, many years of his career, I have been a Salesforce partner as an implementation partner, but haven't really been in a place where I'm actually executing things that are partner related. And Mark's been bringing that to us. So as Mark says, there's a whole lot of learning that I've gotten to go through. And I think I get to bring in a little bit of a perspective of what is it like to actually enter this ecosystem. So it's been a fun ride. And it's really been interesting.
Well, you guys have been awesome to have as a partner. I'm trying to think, it's at least a year and a half or so since we started kicking off this project to bring IQ to life. So there's lots of different insights and lessons and all sorts of things that we'll be able to share with folks. But one of the reasons in particular that I wanted to have Brian on as a regular guest is, we talk about this being the decade of ecosystems. Well, what does that really mean? Well, there's more opportunities now to connect software together. And really that's what the ecosystem is, right? It's these platforms, but then it's all of the other ancillary complementary solutions that different customers have the opportunity to kind of pick and choose what fits their need. And I would argue that data connection, application connections is the ecosystem. And so it's going to be great to have you on with those technical expertise, technical insights. Brian, I want to ask you real quick, a little bit earlier in your career, you spent some time with a little company where you learned about working as a consultant and working with companies. Share a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, I spent about 13 years, a little less than 13 years at a small little company called Accenture. And that got me the exposure to a lot of rather large companies. I spent a lot of my time in the telecom space, working at a lot of companies and brands that you guys would know, Verizon, Sprint, those kinds of places. And the role that I had was a lot of kind of technology architect, and it was really designing a lot of the systems that were used for some of these really large customer facing engagements, and being able to design software that handles that. So it was a pretty natural fit when I finished my career at Accenture and switched over and started working as a consultant again, bringing Salesforce to life for many of our customers, and being able to take some of the learnings of how to do enterprise architecture and how to set things up so that you are designing software for an enterprise and you're plugging it in so that all of the parts of the enterprise can be successful. And so there's a lot of learning there, but being able to take that and apply the principles of just enterprise architecture and bring it into where the CRM is really becoming quite the focal point of many of the systems that we've been working with. And so that was kind of the trend that I saw, and started this company to be able to take advantage of that.
Awesome. Well, 18 years later, man, you guys are running stronger than ever. Like I said, you've been an awesome partner. So I'm looking forward to sharing some of our stories and insights with the viewers as we continue to share the Partnernomics show. All right, well, let's go ahead and dig into this. And I'm going to just kind of preface our first conversation with saying we want to build this from the ground up. I know a lot of times partnering professionals, they may not necessarily be the most technical people on the planet, but they need to know it. They need to understand it. I'm reflecting on my 13 years at Sprint and several years past that as a partnering professional. I was always involved in technology, a lot of mobile, a lot of software, and I had to at least know enough about technology to be dangerous and to kind of to facilitate, to manage these different relationships. So share with folks that we're going to kind of try to build this, the tech story from the ground up. And so we'll get more and more, I guess, involved or more detailed as these different episodes progress. And then I'll also invite people to go to partnernomics.com website. If you have a specific question that you want to ask, something that you want us to address on a future episode with Brian, make sure and toss that out there. So question number one, I'm going to hit you with it, Brian. Let's hammer on this, and that is, what's the first piece of technology, right? So it's this organization, say they decide they want to leverage the power of partnership. What's the first piece of technology they need to put in place, or what needs to kind of be that focal point of their partner management system?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mark. And as we mentioned too, we're starting on this journey with you to try and figure out what the right way to do this partnering stuff is. And the thing that we've learned over our many years as being a consultant in the CRM space is, that's where the first point of contact occurs, is in the CRM. And that's where the battles are fought, if you will, as your sales professionals are trying to close deals, move things through pipelines, and the piece of technology that's used for that is the CRM. And so as you look at what happens in a partnering ecosystem, is you're looking for partners to bring you more deals, but you need to be able to use the same tool that you're using to close your deals today. You need to use that same tool to close the deals that the partners bring you. And so, the obvious question is okay, well, what's my tool to manage partnerships? Well, I would tell you, you need to look no further than where you're managing your current customer relationships right now, which is your CRM.
So, inside of our CRM, right? I mean, as you mentioned, that's like where our business is happening. That's our record of truth.
It's your
Uh,
core. Yeah.
if it's not in the CRM, if it's not in Salesforce, if it's not in HubSpot, it didn't happen, right? We've all heard that a million times before, and that's where our employees have access to it. We can kind of see the flow that happens there, and you know, it's been my experience, or it's kind of my college guess, that roughly I'll say 85% of partnerships or even partnering programs are channel focused or revenue generating focused. But we also have this other side of strategic partnerships, this other side of partnerships that we call solutions based partnerships, which is where we build new technologies, we build new solutions, we build new products, we leverage these capabilities, just like our relationship with you, to build Partnernomics IQ. We have to build it first, and then we go sell it next. But I would argue, even managing relationships that are solutions oriented, it still needs to be in the system of truth and our system of record, so
Absolutely.
people can go there. I mean, that's kind of your pulse of how the business is doing, what is going on, what projects are in flight. That's your CRM.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and to your point, many times we would think about partnering as dealing with sales or revenue generation activities. And so, you're tracking the true notion of an opportunity. And that's typically what you would see as what you're managing in your CRM is your opportunities. But to your point, if there are other strategic partnering relationships, those are still relationships. And the other aspects of a CRM that are powerful are the fact that you use the CRM to track conversations, you track engagements, you track your emails and other things like that. And so it's all of the aspects of how you form a relationship and how you manage that relationship. And all of that stuff needs to have a talk track or a soundtrack that's recorded so that you have that historical view of how your interactions are progressing. And so it doesn't really matter if this is a revenue generating partnership or just a technical partnership or whatever. It's a relationship. And that's where you need to be managing all of this stuff, is in your relationship management tool, which is your CRM. And I want to punch on this point a little bit, because there are a lot of tools that are out there in the partnering landscape, and many of those tools want to claim that they are the center of the universe for the partnering ecosystem. And so there's PRMs, there's account mapping tools, there's other tools that are out there. There's a variety of them, and they all want to claim to be the hub of partnering activities. And I would argue that, really you need to look at your CRM as the hub of all of your partnering activities. These other tools, they all have good purposes, and they all have reasons that they exist. And you want to leverage those tools for what they're good at, but also leverage your CRM for what it is best at, and that is relationship management.
Yeah, great takeaways, great insights there. Let me shift over to the second question now, Brian. That is, we work with organizations literally all over the world. As a matter of fact, one of our clients using IQ today is from New Zealand. But whenever we talk to these different professionals that are standing up programs, they talk about how difficult it is to use their CRM and how they have to cobble it and put it into an arm bar to try to make their CRM manage their partnering program. So it kind of begs the question. I mean, I hear you saying, you got to use the CRM as kind of your point of truth, but it's basically impossible to use CRMs from day one to manage partnerships. Why is that?
Yeah, great question, Mark. And it's interesting because, as we've done our CRM consulting over the years, there is a standard model that a CRM comes with out of the box, right? And for everybody who's here and who's using one, right, you have accounts, you have contacts, you have opportunities at a basic level. And that model is meant to handle, one-on-one sales relationships. I am a sales rep and I'm trying to sell something to a customer, right? And so that customer represents an account. I'm selling it to a person at that account, which is a contact, and I'm trying to sell them some service or good that is represented by the opportunity. So that's a very straightforward and also very one-dimensional model, and it represents what would be, traditional retail sales models, right? But when you stretch this, and you heard me say that you need to be in your CRM because your CRM tracks relationships, right? And partnering is all about relationships. So you want to use the strength of the CRM, but typically a CRM is using that simple, basic model to do sales, and a partner model needs a little bit more stuff in it in order to be able to manage things correctly. And so that's why you see these other tools out there. They want to be the center of the universe for partnering because they've been designed for a partnering, but they're not designed for relationship management. And so I would argue that relationship management is really the key, and you just need to make some tweaks to your CRM to be able to make it handle partnering. And there are things you need to change.
So, Brian, let's double click on that a little bit. You talked about the difference between a partner and a partnership. And so why is that critical? Why is that important? So I'm already thinking about times inside of IQ, whenever we were building out our data models, you can have a partner that is party to multiple partnerships or multiple partnering programs that you have. So for example, maybe they're a tech integration partner, they're a referral partner, and they could be a co-sell partner, for example. But that's really where we start to run into this problem between the one-to-one or the kind of one-to-many.
Exactly. And that's exactly the issue that we see in partnering. And when you're using a CRM, there's reasons that you need to be able to distinguish those relationships. And we talked a little bit, and you mentioned the notion of data modeling. And that's something that is, as a consultant, that's something that we pay attention to all the time, because we want to make sure that whenever we are designing a system, it needs to reflect the realities of the relationships that are around us. And as I was mentioning just a second ago, a standard sales model is a one-to-one model, right? I have one customer that I'm trying to close one deal with, right? But in a partnering model, I am engaging with a partner who is engaging with a customer, and I would have potentially many of those customers that are coming in. And so you need to change your thinking and the structure of the way you manage the data. Instead of it being a one-to-one model, it's a one-to-one-to-many model. And that requires you to think differently, and it requires you to set up your CRM a little bit differently to be able to handle that, because a standard CRM doesn't handle that one-to-one-to-many. It just handles a one-to-many. And so that's the difference in how you need to set it up. And there are some tweaks that you need to put into it.
So for the last question here, Brian, let's talk about, no shortage of software companies out there, right? I mean, the numbers are just staggering, where we're going to be at, I don't want to say like 1 million SaaS companies by the end of 27 or something like that. It's just growing at this phenomenal rate. We used to say, every company is a technology company. A couple of years ago, I started thinking and saying every company is a software company. And we're seeing that trend where in a lot of different organizations, even if it's just a mobile app to kind of nurture these customers and to take care of them, companies are becoming a software company as well. But as we have these different SaaS solutions that are out there, and we also talked about this being the decade of ecosystem, it's about connecting. How do these entrepreneurs, how do these business owners, how do these tech guys and gals, how do they connect? What's the answer to connect software solutions to each other?
And Mark, you've hit it, and we've always talked about the fact that data is the currency of power, right? You need to have the right kind of data in the right way, and you need to be able to pull that together so that you can connect everything. And we talk about having different tools that have different purposes, right? We have PRMs that manage partner relationships. We have account mapping tools that manage the other account relationships that we can see. And those are just to name a few of them, of those key elements. But in order to be able to have that data useful, you have to be able to get it. And, so instead of creating silos of data, you need to be able to get that data and pull it into the place that is going to be the most useful to you. And it is the most useful to you in your CRM. And so in order to be able to do that, it's important that you have two critical factors when you want to be able to talk about bringing on additional tools into your ecosystem that you're going to use to manage your partnership. Number one is the data model. And we talked a little bit about this, right? You need to be able to connect and understand the relationship of what is a partner. And I talk about a partner being this is an account entity, right? It's the company, but that company can be related to us in multiple ways. They could be a referral partner, they could be a resale partner, they could be a technical partner, and I could have a different compensation agreement as a referral partner versus as a technical partner. And so, but if I can only distinguish the fact that there's a partner, but I can't distinguish the different nuances of the different types of agreements I have with that partner, then my data model is flawed. And then if I try to connect to a tool that has that problem, then I'm going to have issues in trying to manage the partnerships. So the first thing that I'm looking for in any tool that I'm going to be using in my ecosystem is the data model compatible with the way that I need to see my data and how I need to manage my partnerships. And then the second is, do I have an API to where I can actually grab the data that I need and pull it into my CRM? Because again, that's where I need to operate with this data, is in my CRM.
Man, I love what I was hearing you say is like the least common denominator. Who knows how you'll be using the data, how your customers might be wanting to use the data. But as I think about like partnership management and how partnerships can evolve, as you mentioned, and there's these larger organizations, you might have they might be a party to 3 or 4 or 5 different partnering initiatives that you have. Don't you want to be able to report and manage and being able to segment each of those different programs that you have and how that partner is doing? Maybe on an affiliate perspective, they're doing great and sending great opportunities for you, but maybe on the technology side or maybe on a co-sell side in those programs, they're not performing so well. So being able to kind of break this data down to these least common denominators, it would just illuminate. It gives you so much more power and so much more insight. I mean, data is, the currency of power, of being able to see that. But you have to have the data model correct in order to be able to get those insights. Otherwise, it's aggregated data.
Exactly. Yeah, if you need those two aspects of it, right? The data model has to be correct because you need to be able to report the many-to-one relationships. And then you need to be able to get that data, and you need to be able to get it in the way that you need it. So, sometimes we talk about, if an API is available, is it something that I can get the API real time, or does it need to be in a batch model? And how quickly can I get it? How available is it? Is the API one directional or two directional? Can I interact both ways? Can I send data to, I'll use an example of a PR. Can I send data to a PRM so that I can put a lead out there for a partner? And then can that partner update the information and I can absorb that information back into my CRM? So I'm now effectively communicating 2 ways with that partner using that tool. And can I do it with the right level and the right granularity of the detail of data that we need? Typically, the 2 things, I'll mention this, the 2 things that are typically flawed in the traditional CRM model, and you've hit one of those, is the notion of partner to partnership. Because that allows you to segment the relationships you have with a partner into multiple different segments if you have those. And then the other thing that typically we need to worry about is attribution. If I have a lead or an opportunity that I'm representing in my CRM, I need to be able to know that that was referred to me by partner A, but I'm using partner B as the technical resource to provide the service. And so in order to be able to have the attributions, of multiple attributions, those are things that are typically not in a normal CRM data model, and you need to make some accommodations to put those in there.
As we think about our partnering program and just the way that we're structured, we leverage partners because they bring in unique assets and unique capabilities, but they still need to be managed. And if we see how these partners are being utilized, leveraged, the value that they're providing to us, again, that just gives us the full picture. And attribution is, definitely a key piece of that equation.
Yeah, those are the key things that I see and again, this has been great because we're kind of walking this journey with you, Mark, and figuring out the ways that we need to be able to enable the partnering ecosystem to be able to perform at its fullest potential. And so as we're going through this, we're trying to work with other companies to make sure that we can bring their tools and the full power of their capabilities to bear as well. But in order to do that, we have to make sure we're aligning it and we're getting it right so that we can get the right kind of data for everyone to use.
Yeah, man, we've got an exciting 5 to 10 years ahead of us, just seeing this whole ecosystem come together, man. It's just super, super exciting time to be a partnering professional. So, Brian, thank you so much for your time. Great checking in with you. Great getting your insights. And like I said, man, we're looking forward to having you as a regular guest. We can continue to unpack this technical side of putting partnerships together.
That's great. Thanks for having me on, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Partnernomics Show. Don't forget to subscribe to get the newest episodes at thepartnernomicsshow.com. Special thanks to our sponsors, IOLITE. To learn more about IOLITE, visit iolitepro.com. And Partnernomics, the science of partnering. To learn more about the suite of Partnernomics courses, coaching programs, and consulting services, visit partnernomics.com. See you on the next episode.